Prince Andrew has been arrested. But here's the real question. Is this evidence driving the system or pressure pushing it? This is Crimes Digest, crime news cross-examined. I practiced inside the criminal justice system for decades. Now I look at it from the outside, not pretending pressure doesn't exist, but asking whether the evidence is strong enough to withstand it. Here's what we know. Prince Andrew was just arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. He was questioned and released under investigation. His home was searched. No charges, though, have been filed. The alleged misconduct relates to misuse of official position during his time as a trade envoy. Now pause right there. For years, the public pressure around Andrew was centered on Epstein-related sex allegations. The prosecutor would say this is exactly how the system should work. In the UK, arrest requires reasonable suspicion, not proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Misconduct in public office is serious. It carries a maximum penalty of life in prison and an unlimited fine. It's not symbolic. It reflects a grave breach of public trust. But why bring this charge and not sex-related charges when the public is up in arms against the Epstein files and wanting sex-related charges? Law enforcement would argue this was not targeting a person and then trying to find charges anywhere it can. Instead, it had the latest Epstein files dump, which contained reasonable suspicion of the charge, and they had to investigate it, just like they would anyone else. There is no selective prosecution, and no one is above the law. The defense would frame it differently. For years, intense public pressure has surrounded allegations tied to Epstein. No sex-related charges have been filed. Instead, the arrest centers on misconduct in public office. The defense would argue this looks like the system responding to overwhelming public pressure, but through the only charge investigators believe might survive. The defense would argue this is selective prosecution. The government can't prove sex-related charges, is out to get Prince Andrew, and so has been searching for a charge. Basically, displaced accountability and vengeance, not justice. Now the cross-examination. Here's where experience matters. When pressure builds around one category of alleged misconduct, but prosecutors pursue a narrower charge, that posture is often consistent with prosecutorial substitution. That doesn't mean anything improper happened. It means prosecutors charge what they believe they can prove. But it does tell you something. It tells you the evidentiary landscape may not match the public narrative. And that's not unusual in high-profile cases. Yes, the public expects justice for the loudest allegation. Just look at the US for the January 6th related charges against Donald Trump. What happened? Prosecutors only obtained a conviction on a bookkeeping-related charge. In this particular situation, justice may be in the eyes of the beholder. If you're Prince Andrew, this is not justice. This is selective prosecution and vengeance. If you're alleged Epstein-related victims, this is justice. This is accountability. I'll bet in a manner you did not foresee. Now the law. In the UK, under Section 24 of the Police and Criminal Evidence Act, arrest requires two things: objective reasonable suspicion and necessity. It is not enough to suspect an offense. Officers must also show that the arrest was required for a specific purpose, such as ensuring an effective investigation or preventing interference with evidence. Charging requires a realistic prospect of conviction. Those are different thresholds. Crossing the first does not guarantee the second. And misconduct in public office, while serious, requires proof of willful abuse of position, amounting to a serious breach of public trust. That's not easy to prove, especially under global scrutiny. Now here's where I land. Yes, the public pressure in this case has centered on Epstein-related sex allegations. We've all seen the photos on the internet. The arrest, however, centers on misconduct in public office. That posture is consistent with prosecutors pursuing what they believe is legally sustainable, rather than what dominates public coverage. This may represent the system attempting to balance overwhelming pressure with what the available evidence can actually support. That's not corruption. That's how charging discretion often works. But it creates institutional risk. If this is the only charge that ultimately survives and nothing more follows, it will strongly suggest that prosecutors concluded other allegations could not meet prosecutorial standards. Right now, the system has acted. It's trying to show accountability. Here, the question isn't whether pressure exists, it's whether the proof that follows can withstand it. Because in criminal law, pressure may start a case, but only evidence can finish. If you value analysis that tests institutions under pressure instead of pretending they operate in a vacuum, subscribe. We don't ignore pressure. We examine whether the evidence survives it. See you in the next case.